Shenanigans, thievery, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Okay, maybe it isn't that dramatic, but a funny little thing happened a few days ago that reminded me of a story, which reminded me of another story. And when I took all of this and mixed it together, it was funny how it all intertwined and connected to each other in this kind of weird way. Let me also add, there's sorry for the background noise, but it's hot and I ain't turning the air conditioner off. So to start, what spurred all of this recently, in one of Kevin the Fam's live streams, probably 2 or 3 months ago, we were talking about age, and I'm pretty sure it was Kevin the Fam's live stream anyway. But we were talking about age, and a lot of us in there were 40 something and 50 something, and I was coming up on 50, which I have since passed. And I said I was going to stop talking about age in years and start calling it levels, because you say I'm 50 years old and it comes out a little depressing. If you say I'm level 50, well, people say, hey, congratulations, level 50, all right. Okay, that was several weeks ago. A few days ago, probably, well, a little over a week ago as you're watching this, Sarah Michelle Gellar posted this on her Instagram. It's a meme that says, I want to start referring to my age in levels. Level 41 just sounds more badass. And I thought, hey, that's my joke. I came up with that in the live stream. Now, obviously, I'm not being serious. I doubt Sarah Michelle Gellar was lurking around Kevin the Fam's live stream and stole that joke. And even if she was, that would be pretty cool, But more likely, it's just cool that me and SMG have something along the same lines of the same sense of humor and great minds thinking alike and so forth. But still, I can't help but wonder if someone in the stream told that same joke to someone else, who then made the meme, which was then found by Sarah Michelle Gellar. Unless I happen to bump into Sarah Michelle Gellar, I guess I'll never know. But all of this reminded me of a couple of things, a couple of stories, and hopefully I can get all this out and it not take too long. I brought up before that I worked this awful telemarketing job, and I talked about some of the unique people that worked there. And one of these people was a guy named Terry. Terry was probably about 25 years older than me. And I don't remember what inspired him to tell me this. If it was because I had brought up that I had written some short stories, or if we were talking about TV shows, or exactly what it was. But he told me that in the early 60s, he was working at this place, and I don't remember what it was exactly, but people would have to come in and pick stuff up. This guy came in to make a pickup, and Terry knew that he was some kind of writer or publisher or something, and apparently his errand boy was sick that day or something, so he just came in himself. And whatever it was he came to pick up wasn't quite ready to go out. And Terry had written a science fiction short story and asked if the man would read it while he waited. And the guy agreed. Well, I gotta wait. I might as well read something to pass the time. So Terry heads back in the back, and he took his time to give the man plenty of time to read the story. But when he came back up front with the package, the man was gone, and so was his story. And I don't know whatever happened to the package, if they sent somebody else to pick it up or what the deal was. But of course, it was the early 60s, and it's not like it was that easy to make copies of things, so that was the only copy of the story he had. A few months later, Terry catches wind of a science fiction story in Life magazine. He gives it a look, and the captain of the starship has the same name as his captain, and the name of the ship is the same name of the ship in his story. And except for a few small changes, the story was his story. Now, what made this a little hard to believe is the captain was Captain Pike, and the ship was the Enterprise, and the short story was the base for the original pilot of Star Trek. Now, you're probably thinking the same thing I did at the time, which is hockey, and I don't mean the ice sport. However, when we get to my story, I can't help but wonder if I shouldn't give him a little bit more benefit of the doubt. Because 6 years later, about 6 years after Terry told me that story, it was 2002, and I got an email from a friend of mine about an online contest. I had written short stories and even wrote a novella at one point, but I had always wanted to take a stab at writing a screenplay. Well, for this contest, people who entered would submit their idea for a TV show and give a brief outline of what the show was about and the main characters and everything. And if you made it past the first stage, you actually had to send in a few pages of the pilot episode, and they would keep narrowing it down until eventually it all wound down to a single winner who would actually have their pilot shot. And there were several different production companies involved, and if I remember right, HBO was involved, and maybe something like the USA Network or something like that. But it was a legit deal. There were some notable names, somewhat notable names involved. I decided to give it a try. Figured, what the hell? It doesn't cost anything. So I put a little thought into it, and it was going into the final season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I wanted to come up with something that would possibly capture that audience. And of course, that links us to Sarah Michelle Gellar. The basic idea I had was a bunch of young people fresh out of high school were starting to discover that they had these supernatural powers. And one would have super speed, another super strength, another telepathy, and so on and so forth. They would all be from different backgrounds and different kinds of people. There'd be the preppy cheerleader, there'd be the goth girl, there'd be the athlete, the nerd, and so on and so forth. Various different races, both male and female. They'd all be drawn together. A bunch of people that most of which you wouldn't expect to be hanging out with each other for the most part. But they'd all be drawn together to fight this unknown force that was rising in power. That was the shell of it. The basic idea. So that's what I submitted. And I worked on a rough draft of a screenplay. And I was sharing some of this with a friend of mine that I knew I could trust to keep it to herself so I could get some feedback. And she helped me with the name, which I think was something like the Young Knights or something like that. To be honest, I don't even remember exactly what the title was, but because I didn't even make it past the first round, which really wasn't surprising. I'm sure there were thousands and thousands of entries. But I did keep up with the contest, and I know that the show that won was set in Seattle at a fish market. I don't remember exactly what the show was supposed to be about. I don't think that anything ever came of it. If they did shoot a pilot, I guess nobody picked it up. But anyway, so that was that. I just kind of put everything aside and kind of forgot about it. Anyway, about 4 years later, a TV show comes on the air called Heroes. I remember the marketing campaign for it. It showed like the videotape of the girl jumping off something. She lands and her arm broke, and she just kind of and puts it back in place. And it caught my eye, so I took a little bit closer look. And it was a show about people that started to discover they had supernatural powers. And they were people from various different backgrounds, male and female, all different races. And they were drawn together to fight this unknown force that was rising in power. And I was like, holy crap, that's my show. I did eventually watch the first episode. Of course, I had never sent my screenplay into that contest, and the story was a little bit different. The main difference was the characters were older, but it was still my idea, including many of the powers that the people would discover, the kinds of people. It was like, instead of the high school nerd, it was what the high school nerd would become. Instead of the slutty girl, it was what the slutty girl would become. And I always like, did somebody steal? Somebody with the contest steal it? I don't know. Maybe it could have happened. It's just, I don't know. It's just something I'll always wonder about. And honestly, I feel stupid even saying that it's a possibility. But even the friend I was sharing part of my idea with looked like she'd seen a ghost when she realized it was that close to the same idea that I had. She actually asked me one day out of the blue, no prompt or anything. She just said, "Hey, have you seen that show Heroes?" And I had something. I set it down on the table and I said, "No, I have not seen that show. I hadn't watched it yet." I said, "No, I haven't seen that show, but does that show not sound familiar?" And she kind of looked at it, and it finally dawned on her. I was like, "Oh my God, yes!" It's like she suddenly realized, oh crap, she read part of the script 4 years before the dang thing even came out. So I have a witness for it. I'm not totally crazy, at least not when it comes to that. So it's just, like I say, it's just one of those things I'll always wonder if somebody just kind of made a note of that basic idea at least, and ended up coming out with their own little thing. But and I believe one of the executive producers of Heroes was George Takei, who of course played Sulu on Star Trek. So we complete that circle. We've got it all connected now. All right, well that's my I've been ripped off story. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here because I think this is probably a lot longer than it needs to be already. But I hope you enjoyed the story. Hope you enjoyed the ride. I'm not even sure what the outtake of the week is going to be this time around. I'll just have to pick something. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
And I just kind of followed behind in the spots that I seen were okay. And I decided to get up front.
She busted her ass.